Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off our presentation today. Our focus is on the topic how, when, and where. This will be a fascinating exploration of the key factors that influence our subject. We'll be covering the timing, the methods, and the locations that matter most. So stay with me as we dive into this engaging journey. Let's get started. Let's take a look at the contents of today's presentation. We begin with Class 8, which sets the foundation for our discussion. Moving on, we will explore the caste system in Hinduism, an important social structure that has shaped Indian society for centuries. Then, we will compare the past versus the present state of history to understand how our perception of the past has evolved over time. Next, we'll look at a synopsis that summarizes the key themes, followed by an introduction to the concept of history itself. We'll examine the meaning of history and how it is often referred to as a span of time, which helps us understand its scope. As we progress, we'll discuss criteria used to select specific dates, crucial for periodizing history, and the sources we rely on to write history. This includes understanding how Indian history is classified and the significance of different sources. We will then explore figures like James Rennell and Warren Hastings, who played vital roles in shaping historical perspectives during their times. Additionally, we'll look at the Britannica and the East India Company, which contributed to the documentation and understanding of Indian history. Further, we'll analyze how the modern period has shifted to the colonial period and what official records can tell us, and, importantly, what they often do not reveal about our past. Finally, we'll discuss the criteria for periodization, the sources of writing history, and how to interpret these sources critically. We'll also see how history is influenced by the criteria we set for different periods, and conclude with a note of thanks. All these points connect to our overall theme, understanding history not just as a collection of dates and events, but as a lens through which we view our identity and society. Welcome to our next section, which is Class 8 History, Chapter 1 from the NCERT syllabus. In this chapter, we'll explore the foundational aspects of Indian history, focusing on key events and developments that shaped our past. We'll look at how different regions and cultures contributed to the formation of India as we know it today. This chapter helps us understand the roots of our civilization, its traditions, and the changes that occurred over time. As we go through this, keep in mind how these historical moments connect to the broader theme of our journey through history, understanding our roots to better appreciate our present and future. Let's take a closer look at the synopsis of this section. First, we consider the criteria used to select a set of dates, which helps us understand the framework for historical timelines. Then, we explore Warren Hastings, a key figure in Indian history, whose policies and actions significantly impacted the period. Moving on, we examine how Indian history is classified, giving us a structured way to study different eras and events. Next, we discuss time notation, which is essential for accurately dating and understanding historical events. We also look at the sources of writing history, such as inscriptions, manuscripts, and oral traditions, that form the foundation of our knowledge. Finally, we acknowledge what official records often do not tell us, reminding us that history can sometimes be incomplete or biased, and that it's important to analyze sources critically. All these points connect to our overall theme of understanding how history is recorded, interpreted, and reconstructed. This helps us appreciate the complexities involved in studying India's past and the importance of a careful, critical approach. Welcome to our next topic, which is the introduction to the concept of history. When we talk about history, we're really referring to a span of time, an entire period that we study and analyze. It's like looking at a vast timeline that helps us understand how societies, cultures, and events have evolved over the years. This idea of a span of time is fundamental because it frames everything we explore about the past. As we move forward, keep in mind that understanding this timeline helps us connect past events to the present and even shape our future. This concept is central to the overall theme of our presentation, which is about understanding how history influences our world today. Let's talk about the meaning behind history. Essentially, history is the study of the past and how things have changed over time. It's about understanding what happened before us and how those events have shaped the world we live in today. When we look at history, we're not just memorizing dates or facts. We're exploring the stories of people, societies, and civilizations. This helps us see patterns, learn from mistakes, and appreciate how progress has been made. The study of history is really a window into change, how societies evolve, how ideas develop, and how the world transforms across generations. By understanding this, we gain a better perspective on current events and the forces that continue to influence our future. So, in the context of this presentation, history is our foundation for understanding change and growth over time. Today, we're going to look at the caste system in Hinduism, which is a fundamental aspect of the culture and social structure. There are 5 main types of castes, each with its own role and significance. These castes are traditionally seen as a way to organize society, with specific duties and responsibilities associated with each one. Understanding these different groups helps us see how social order was maintained and how beliefs about karma and dharma played into everyday life. As we explore this, keep in mind that the caste system connects deeply to the overall themes of religion, social hierarchy, and cultural identity in Hinduism. Today, I want to introduce you to James Rennell. He's a key figure in our discussion, as his work really exemplifies some of the core ideas we've been exploring. Rennell was a pioneering scientist whose contributions helped shape our understanding of the subject. His research not only advanced the field, but also connected to the broader themes of innovation and discovery that run throughout this presentation. By understanding his work, we can better appreciate how individual efforts can drive significant progress. So, let's take a closer look at his background and the impact he made. Now, let's take a closer look at the Britannica and the East India Company. This was an English company specifically created for the purpose of exploiting trade with East Asia, Southeast Asia, and India. Essentially, it was established to facilitate and control trade routes and commercial interests in these regions. What's really important to note here is that the company was incorporated by royal charter on December 31, 1600. This means that it was officially granted authority and recognition by the English crown, giving it a formal and legal basis to operate. This company played a crucial role in the expansion of European influence and trade in Asia, which ties directly into the broader theme of how European powers established economic and political dominance overseas during this period. Let's talk about the introduction to history. History is really about understanding past events, but it's so much more than just memorizing dates. It's about exploring how things happened when they took place and where they occurred. In this lesson, we'll focus on 3 key questions. How did it happen? When did it happen? And where did it happen? These questions help us piece together the story of the past and connect it to the bigger picture of our history. By the end, you'll see how each event fits into the larger story of human experience. Today, I want to talk about the meaning of history. At its core, history is all about understanding the changes that happen over time. It's like looking at a story that unfolds across different periods, showing us how things once were and how they've transformed. When we study history, we're essentially trying to find out what life was like in the past and then see how that has evolved into the present. It's about connecting the dots between then and now, understanding the shifts, the developments, and sometimes the continuities. This idea of change over time is fundamental because it helps us grasp the dynamics of human experience. By exploring these changes, we gain insights into why the world looks the way it does today. So, in essence, history isn't just about memorizing dates or events. It's about understanding the process of change itself and how it shapes our world. This concept ties directly into the overall theme of our presentation, which is about understanding the patterns of human progress and the forces that drive change throughout history. Today, I want to talk about the caste system in Hinduism, which is a significant aspect of the religion's social structure. There are 5 main types of castes, each with its own role and status within society. These castes are traditionally seen as a way to organize social and spiritual life, but they also have complex implications for social interactions and obligations. Understanding these castes helps us see how Hindu teachings influence societal norms and individual identities. As we explore this topic, Keep in mind how this structure connects to broader themes of duty, karma, and social order in Hinduism. Let's take a moment to talk about James Rennell, a truly influential figure in the history of geography. He was born on December 3, 1742, in England, and he lived until March 29, 1830. Rennell was considered the leading British geographer of his time, and his work significantly advanced our understanding of the Indian subcontinent. One of his most notable achievements was creating the first nearly accurate map of India, which was a remarkable feat given the limited technology of that era. He also joined the East India Company, which played a major role in British expansion and administration in India. During his service, he became the Surveyor General of Bengal from 1764 to 1777. This position allowed him to undertake detailed surveys and mapping projects that laid the foundation for future geographical and administrative work in the region. Rennell's contributions are a perfect example of how exploration and precise mapping are central to understanding and governing large territories, topics that tie into our overall theme of exploration and scientific progress during this period. His work helped shape British knowledge and policies in India, making him a key figure in the history of geography. Let's take a closer look at the Britannica or East India Company. This was an English company formed specifically to exploit trade with East and Southeast Asia, as well as India. It was officially incorporated by a royal charter on December 31, 1600, which gave it a sort of legal monopoly on British trade in those regions. Initially, the company operated as a monopolistic trading body, meaning it held exclusive rights to trade in those areas. However, as time went on, its role expanded beyond trade alone. By the early 18th century, the company was actively involved in politics and governance, essentially acting as an agent of British imperialism in India. This shift was significant because it meant the company's activities contributed directly to British political influence and control in India, shaping the region's history for decades. Additionally, in the 19th century, the company's activities in China played a crucial role in expanding British influence there as well. Their involvement helped set the stage for broader imperial ambitions, impacting international relations and regional dynamics. Overall, the East India Company wasn't just a trading enterprise. It was a key player in the broader story of British imperial expansion, which is central to understanding the global impact of European powers during this period. When we talk about history, it's important to remember that it's often referred to as a span of time rather than a specific moment. For example, we can't point to one exact date when British rule officially began because it was a gradual process that unfolded over many years. Similarly, our own habits, like developing a taste for drinking tea, didn't happen overnight. It took time for these things to become part of our culture. This idea connects to the broader theme of history being a continuous, evolving story rather than just isolated events. Understanding this helps us see how change happens gradually and how different influences shape our traditions over time. Let's take a look at how the concept of history has evolved over time. Earlier, history was mostly about a string of dates, mainly focusing on battles and major events. It was like keeping score of what happened on specific days. But now, the way we look at history has expanded significantly. It's no longer just about the dates or big events, it's much more comprehensive. Today, history includes understanding the how and what, how people earned their livelihood, what they produced, and even what they ate. This broader perspective helps us see the bigger picture of human life and society, making history more relevant and insightful for understanding our present and shaping our future. Let's talk about the criteria for selecting a set of dates. Dates become particularly important when we want to focus on specific events that we consider significant. In the context of Indian history, most of what we know was documented by British historians. These historians generally started their record-keeping from the time of Warren Hastings, the first Governor-General, and continued until the end of British rule with Lord Mountbatten, the last Viceroy. Recognizing these periods helps us understand how historical narratives are shaped and why certain dates are chosen. It also highlights the importance of being critical about the sources and the perspectives they offer as we piece together our history. Now, let's talk about Warren Hastings, a truly pivotal figure in Indian history. He became the first Governor-General of India in 1773, marking the start of direct British administrative control. Hastings was known for being a competent and honorable administrator, someone who looked ahead and made policies that really helped shape the future of Anglo-Indian relations. While some of his decisions were controversial, overall, his leadership played a crucial role in stabilizing British influence in India. However, his tenure wasn't without controversy. His administration sparked significant debate back in Britain, leading to his impeachment and trial. This highlights how complex and impactful his role was, showing that even visionary leaders can face serious challenges. Connecting this to our overall theme, Hastings' story underscores how leadership and controversy often go hand in shaping history. Let's take a look at how historians have approached dividing Indian history into distinct periods. In 1817, a Scottish economist and political philosopher named James Mill published a book called History of British India. This work is significant because it introduced a way of thinking about Indian history in terms of different phases or periods. Mill proposed dividing Indian history into three main periods: the Hindu period, the Muslim period, and the British period. Each of these periods reflects different dominant cultural and political influences over time. The idea behind this division is to understand how each era shaped Indian society and how the changes from one period to another contributed to the overall historical trajectory. It's interesting to see how this classification connects to the broader theme of our presentation, which is about understanding the complex layers of India's past. Recognizing these periods helps us analyze the different forces, religious, cultural, and colonial, that have influenced India's development over the centuries. Before the Britishers took control of India, the region was ruled by Hindu and Muslim rulers who, at times, exploited the land and its people. During that period, India was deeply rooted in complex social structures like the caste system, which divided people based on birth. Additionally, the country practiced multiple religions, each with its own traditions, beliefs, and superstitions, often leading to social divisions and misunderstandings. Now, some thinkers like James Mill believed that only British rule could bring about change. He thought the British could civilize India, teaching manners, arts, and laws that would uplift society. This idea was part of the larger narrative that the British saw themselves as a civilizing force, which justified their presence and efforts in India. Connecting this to the overall theme, it highlights how the pre-colonial social and political landscape shaped the way the British justified their rule, often portraying themselves as the agents of progress and modernization for India. Today, we're exploring the classification of Indian history into three main periods. First, we have ancient history, which spans from around 4000 BC up to AD 500. This era covers the earliest civilizations, the development of urban societies, and the foundation of cultural and religious traditions that still influence India today. Next, we move to medieval history, from AD 500 to AD 1500. This period saw the rise and fall of various dynasties, the spread of different religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, and significant cultural and architectural achievements. It was a time of dynamic change and regional consolidation. Finally, we come to modern history, starting from AD 1500 and continuing to the present. This era includes the arrival of European explorers, the colonial period, and the fight for independence, leading to the India we know today. Understanding these periods helps us see the continuity and change in Indian society over thousands of years, and it's essential for grasping the rich and complex history that shapes India's identity today. Let's take a closer look at how we label years in our calendar systems, specifically the terms Anno Domini, or AD, and before Christ, or BC. These terms are used in both the Julian and Gregorian calendars to help us understand historical timelines. The term Anno Domini, which is Latin for "in the year of the Lord," was developed during the medieval period. It essentially marks years based on the estimated birth of Jesus Christ, making it a key reference point for dating events in Western history. On the other hand, before Christ, or BC, is used to denote years that occurred before this estimated birth year. It helps us categorize and understand events that happened prior to the start of the AD era. Together, these terms provide a standardized way to number years and place historical events in chronological context. Recognizing how they function within our calendar systems is important for understanding historical timelines, which ties back to the overall theme of how humans have organized and measured time throughout history. Now, let's talk about the shift from the modern period to the colonial period. The modern period was characterized by the growth of various modern ideas and forces, reflecting progress and development. However, during British rule, this modernization didn't really reach the people as expected. Instead, the experience was quite different. Because of this, historians and scholars decided to change the name from the modern period to the colonial period to better reflect the reality of the time. This change highlights an important concept: colonization. When one country subjugates or dominates another, it brings about significant political, economic, social, and cultural changes. This process of colonization isn't just about control, it deeply impacts every aspect of the colonized country's life. So, understanding this shift helps us see how colonial rule altered the course of history, affecting the growth of nations and cultures in profound ways. It's a crucial point that connects to the overall theme of how colonialism shaped modern history. When we look into the sources that historians rely on for writing about the last 250 years of Indian history, one of the most important is the official records of the British administration. For the British, writing was not just a task, it was essential. Every plan, every policy, and every agreement was documented in writing. This created a rich administrative culture based on memos, notes, and detailed reports. These documents were carefully preserved in record rooms attached to administrative institutions, ensuring that these records were kept safe for future reference. Interestingly, many of these documents were written by calligraphists, specialists in beautiful handwriting, whose skill added a certain artistry to official records. So, these official records are invaluable because they give us a detailed, official account of what the British administration was doing and thinking during that period. They form a crucial part of our understanding of this history, connecting the administrative practices to the broader themes of colonial rule and governance. Now, let's look at the sources of writing history, specifically the National Archives of India in Delhi, which dates back to the 1920s. This place is essentially a record room where all the important documents and letters from the government and various administrators are carefully stored. What's remarkable is that these documents are organized systematically, often arranged by dates starting from the 18th century. This organization makes it easier for historians and researchers to trace events and understand the past in a chronological manner. The preservation of these documents in good condition is crucial because they serve as primary sources, helping us piece together India's history accurately. So, this archive is a vital resource for anyone interested in understanding the historical narrative, connecting the dots between different periods, and ensuring that the stories of the past are preserved for future generations. Now, let's talk about the sources of writing history, focusing on conducting surveys. During the colonial period, conducting surveys was a common method used by administrators. The British believed that to govern effectively, they needed a thorough understanding of the land and its people. By the early 19th century, this approach had become more detailed and systematic. They started carrying out comprehensive surveys to map the entire country. These surveys were not just about geography, they included things like forest surveys and zoological surveys, among others. These efforts helped create detailed records and maps, which were crucial for administration and resource management. So, in essence, conducting surveys was a key tool for collecting information that shaped how history was written and understood during that period. It highlights how knowledge collection was directly linked to governance and control. So, when we look at official records, it's important to remember what they don't tell us. Records mainly capture facts and events, but they don't really reveal how other people in the country felt about those events. For example, they might record a battle or a treaty, but they won't tell us if the common people felt hopeful, scared, or angry. If we want to understand those personal feelings and experiences, we need to look at other sources like diaries, travel writings, or autobiographies of important personalities. These are often written by literate people who could document their personal thoughts and observations. However, it's crucial to recognize that there's a significant gap in our historical record. For the tribals, peasants, workers, and the poor, who often couldn't read or write, there are very few records available. Their voices and experiences are largely missing from official archives. This highlights a key point in our overall theme. History isn't just what's recorded in official documents. It's also about understanding diverse perspectives, especially those that haven't been documented. To get a fuller picture of the past, we need to acknowledge these gaps and seek out other sources and methods of understanding.